Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Two names that you wouldn't expect to be uttered in the same breath, let alone face each other in the boxing ring. One is a living legend, the youngest to ever win a heavyweight title, a man who's created a career out of intimidation, fear, and destruction inside the ropes. The other is a social media star who built his name through controversy, pranks, and a controversial career in boxing, despite his lack of formal training in the sport. But in November 2024, these two worlds collided in a fight that had the world talking. Mike Tyson, at 58 years old, versus Jake Paul, the brash 27-year-old influencer turned fighter. The build-up to this fight was electric. Fans, pundits, and critics alike debated the fairness of the matchup. Was it a spectacle for entertainment, or was it a real competition between two fighters at the peak of their powers? Some viewed it as a money grab, a way to capitalize on Tyson's legacy and Paul's massive online following. Others saw it as a test of Jake Paul's boxing abilities against one of the most fearsome men to ever step into the ring. Tyson, despite his age, was still a name synonymous with knockout power. His history as the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world was etched into boxing lore. But at 58, Tyson wasn't the fighter he once was. Time had taken its toll. He had retired from the sport years ago, and while he had made a few comeback attempts in exhibition matches, the idea of him facing someone like Jake Paul seemed outlandish to many. Could Tyson still unleash that signature ferocity, or had Father Time caught up with him? Jake Paul, on the other hand, had a much different reputation. With a background in YouTube and social media, Paul had gained notoriety for his antics, including his controversial behavior and clashes with other celebrities. But his shift to boxing wasn't one taken lightly. Despite a mixed record and a lack of professional experience, Paul was an undefeated fighter going into this bout. His combination of youth, conditioning, and determination made him a serious competitor. But would it be enough to overcome Tyson's legacy? Now, let's talk about fairness. Was this fight a legitimate contest, or was it an exercise in spectacle and exploitation? The rules were adjusted to level the playing field in Tyson's favor. The fight was scheduled for 8 2-minute rounds instead of the traditional 3-minute rounds. Both fighters wore 14-ounce gloves, which are heavier than the usual 10-ounce gloves used in most professional bouts. These changes were meant to protect Tyson, whose advanced age and long absence from the sport made it risky to face a younger, stronger opponent in a full-length, high-intensity fight. Still, many fans and analysts were divided. Some believed that these adjustments gave Jake Paul too much of an advantage, while others argued that Tyson's experience in the ring would make up for any physical disadvantages. Would Tyson's ring IQ and muscle memory be enough to overcome Jake's youth and hunger for victory? Or would Jake's conditioning and relentless nature be too much for the aging legend? As the fight drew closer, the build-up intensified. Jake Paul, never one to shy away from drama, taunted Tyson in the media, referencing the infamous ear-biting incident against Evander Holyfield in 1997 by wearing a diamond-studded earpiece at a pre-fight press conference. The public loved the theatrics, and the hype around the event only grew larger. Tyson, on the other hand, kept his cool, remaining the quiet, confident fighter he's always been. But even Tyson's calm demeanor couldn't hide the fact that, in the eyes of many, this fight wasn't just about boxing. It was about legacies, egos, and what each man stood to prove. And then, the fight itself. The entire world tuned in, as Netflix streamed the event to millions across the globe. Fans in the US, UK, and beyond waited in anticipation, their eyes glued to the screen. What would happen? Could Tyson reclaim a piece of his past glory? Or would Jake Paul cement his place in the world of boxing, shutting down his critics once and for all? The first round was exactly what many had expected. Tyson, despite his age, came out strong. His punches still had power behind them, and he showed flashes of his old form. Jake Paul, as expected, wasn't going to let Tyson intimidate him. He stayed composed, taking the fight to the former champion, landing jabs and using his footwork to avoid the heavy punches Tyson was known for. As the rounds progressed, the tension mounted. Tyson had his moments, landing a few heavy shots, but Jake Paul's youth and endurance began to show. Tyson's punches, though still dangerous, lacked the same explosiveness they once had. Meanwhile, Jake's energy never seemed to wane, and his punches continued to land cleanly on Tyson's head and body. By the middle rounds, it was clear that Paul's superior conditioning was playing a significant role in his ability to withstand Tyson's attack. The final rounds were a test of endurance for both men. Tyson, his body clearly wearing down, continued to try and land that game-changing punch, but Jake Paul remained elusive, using his agility and movement to keep Tyson at bay. As the fight went the full distance, the question on everyone's mind was whether Tyson had done enough to secure a win, or if Paul's stamina and technique would prove superior. Then, after what seemed like an eternity of punches, exchanges, and strategic moves, the decision came. The judges scored the fight, and the result? Jake Paul emerged victorious, marking yet another controversial moment in his young boxing career. But was the fight truly fair? Was this just another staged spectacle to attract millions of views? Or had Jake Paul actually defeated one of the greatest boxers of all time? The aftermath of the fight was a whirlwind of opinions, with fans, pundits, and even former fighters weighing in. Many argued that Tyson, due to his age and physical limitations, had no business being in the ring with someone like Jake Paul. Others praised Jake for his performance, acknowledging that, regardless of the spectacle surrounding the fight, Paul had indeed held his own and beaten a boxing legend. As the dust settled, the debate continued. Was it a fair fight? Was it a glorified money grab? Or did Jake Paul truly earn his win? Only time will tell how this fight will be remembered in the annals of boxing history. But one thing is for certain. It's a fight that sparked conversation, pushed boundaries, and blurred the lines between traditional sports and entertainment. Was it worth the hype? You decide.